My name is Karen, and I am obviously from Norway. So today I'm going to talk to you about ecotourism in Norway. And I'm not a tourism student like you, but I do know a lot about Norway, and I've also traveled around in Norway, so I hope this will be a little bit interesting and relevant for you too. Not really sure how long I will talk, but I really also want your interaction, so I'm going to ask you some questions, but also feel free to ask me questions throughout if you have some. So in this presentation, I'll start about introducing myself before I also introduce you to Norway and to Norwegian culture, because I'm not sure how much you actually know about it. And then I'm going to talk about the main tourism streams in Norway and also the term ecotourism in Norway, because we have this certification system and we have initiatives for sustainable transportation. There's also some tourism aspects that are not so sustainable that I'm going to talk about. And like for interaction, if it can be anything similar to Indonesia or to Lombok, and if we can learn from each other in any sense. So that will be interesting. If you can take your hand up if you know anything about Norway. It's pronounced Håland, actually. Yeah. Vikings, Håland. Do you know anything, Christy? Lots of mountains and nature. Yeah. And this is what I expected you to say as well. Vikings. This is Northern Lights. And some people think that we ride polar bears to school, especially Americans. This is not true, but there is a part of Norway that has polar bears as well. That's true. So throughout this presentation, I'm also going to show you some videos. These are mostly posted on YouTube by something called Visit Norway, which is kind of like a state company that encourages tourism in Norway. And I'm going to show you these videos both to give you a good understanding of how Norway is, but also maybe to give you some inspiration of how you can market tourism or some new ways to make videos and reach people and engage people about your attractions or your businesses. So about myself. I am from Norway, but I'm quite used to by now to talk to foreigners about Norway. I've lived in Canada for 2 years. I also worked at the embassy there for a little bit as an intern. But for the past 2 years, I've been living in Portugal, outside Lisbon. Here I've studied, but I was also engaged in an NGO that works with startup consulting, and especially for companies that are within the ocean space and sustainable startups. This is me, the day that I heard about Ballenara and Fuad, actually. It was at a conference, so a little bit more about Norway than Vikings and Håland. It's up there in Scandinavia, in Europe, and parts of it is above the Arctic Circle. I used almost 30 hours to travel from Oslo to Lombok. What is very different from here is that the seasons are very distinct. We can have minus 50 even some places in the winter, and we get maximum 30 degrees in the summer. What is also super cool, and the reason why many people come, is the phenomenon called midnight sun. This is also going to be a video about that in the summer, above the Arctic Circle, the sun does not set. So it's light all day. Even at 2 a.m. you can go out and it's light like this. But also in the winter time, it's very, very dark. And a lot of Norwegians can get what they call winter depressed. Because you go out to school or work at 8, and then the sun rises maybe at 10, 11, and then it goes down at 2. So you don't see the light. And you need the vitamin D and stuff, so some people get a bit depressed. That's why I live in Portugal. We're only 5.5 million people And area-wise, to get some perspective, it's 5 times smaller than Indonesia, but 82 times larger than Lombok. The system-wise is a social democracy, and we do have a monarch, so a king, but it's more there like as a symbol. So a little bit about our culture. Relevant for this presentation is especially the word friluftsliv, which translates to open-air living. This is very much related to how Norwegians place value in nature, and we're very much grown up with always going out to the forest, even with the school, picking mushrooms, going skiing in the weekend, and it's also a little bit linked with the social equality and the welfare system. And it's also a law in Norway that you can basically walk or camp anywhere you'd like to, because it's shared responsibility for everyone. But this also means that the society has a very, very high trust. It depends on people actually doing what they say and actually doing something good. And as people, if you go to Norway, you might think that people are not that friendly to you. They might not speak to you or speak to strangers because you're very reserved. But it's more that we value the independence of people and privacy, which I think other cultures can see as a bit cold. So when I came here, for instance, I felt super welcome and people were super warm. It's very different, yeah. But it's not that people are rude, it's just, yeah. Yes, exactly. In the 1960s, it was found oil outside of Norway. And when this was found, Norway already had some laws and regulations that said that nature is going to belong to the whole of Norway. So when oil was found, they were like, okay, this oil is not just going to belong to the American companies coming in or rich people. We're going to share it with everyone in a sustainable manner, sustainable like economically. So this has been super, super good for us as Norwegians, because it's we have a lot of welfare in the sense that the state protects you as, for instance, a student or if you have a low income, etc. But yeah, oil is obviously also not good for the environment, and they keep pumping it. But that makes us have the wealth so that we can focus on other green and sustainable initiatives. For instance, electric vehicles is very big. And what is a little bit special is this thing about the D&T cabins. Yeah, there is an organization that's called D&T, the Norwegian Trekking Association. Yes. And they have cabins, almost 600 cabins located in very remote places in Norway. And this is supposed to be an accessible tool for everyone, internationals and Norwegians, to use. So you can stay overnight somewhere if you're doing like a long hike, if you're doing like a several-day trail, for instance. And it's supposed to be accessible for everyone. So it's like membership-based. And yeah, it promotes environmental responsibility and sustainability because they promote going on these hikes and nature. What is very fun and what I think can surprise a lot of people is that if you are a member or if you want to use one of these cabins, you get a D&T key. And this key can open every cabin in Norway. And how you pay for this, because you go around with the key as a member, and if you just choose that you want to spend a night at a cabin, you go on this app and you say, I'm going to spend a night at this cabin. And then you pay there. But if you go to the cabin and lock it up with your key, no one's going to stop you. So you can go and take advantage of it, but people don't. So there's 3 different types of cabins. There's some that is staffed, where you basically like a hotel. You get some local food, You stay there. The most of them are self-service or no service. Self-service, they have stacked it up with food already. And here you also pay for the food in the same way you pay for staying in the cabins. You just put into the app what you took of food, and then you pay for it. And the no-service ones, they can be super, super remote and very basic, and it's just to have a shelter for the night. So I think these cabins are quite cool, and I should use them more, really. And some of them have solar panels, not a lot of them though, and they always have like outdoor toilets. Very, very simple. So here, maybe there are these two at least. It's also for Indonesia. Cycling. Do you do cycling here? Like, not scooter, but normal bike? Yeah. Nice. We don't do a lot of scootering. So yeah, skiing is obviously very, very popular, and everything with snow. And some examples of it being sustainable is that some of the resorts are 100% on renewable energy. Hiking is also very popular. It can be quite tough. We also have surfing in Norway. You can see it's a bit colder. You need like a wetsuit, you need a hat, you need a thick wetsuit, you need like boots and gloves and everything. Yeah, and cycling is very popular too. Like some tourists take a lot of things on their bike and go around, but it's very up and down, so it can be exhausting. Yeah.
How important is outdoor life in Norwegian culture? Because as I know, Norwegian people like to visit any country, and they don't like to be introvert. Yeah.
Sorry.
So how important is outdoor life in Norway? That's all. Thank you.
And it's very, even compared to like Sweden and Denmark, which are very similar countries, Norway is very much outdoors. Also, yeah, when you're out traveling, but I think that also depends on the person. But yeah, as I said, we grow up. Usually we have like 1 day outdoors in school every week. And I went to like a kindergarten that was only outside. So yeah, it's very important. I think that's the answer. So over to the cuisine. Here, I wasn't really sure if I was gonna talk about it actually, because Norwegian people eat a lot of international food and not that much Norwegian food actually. I think they say that Norwegians eat the most amount of tacos per person in the world. But still, we do have something that is like special for Norway, and that is often incorporated into tourism businesses when they want to focus on being sustainable. For instance, Norway has one of the most sustainable fishing industries. It's a lot of local hunting and actually reindeer meat. And I'm a vegetarian, but I actually miss reindeer meat sometimes because it's quite good. We also got indigenous people called Sami. Sami is like the Sami people lives all the way north in Norway, and they live with like indigenous traditions, and they do reindeer breeding and hunting, etc. Yeah. Do you actually have like an indigenous population here? Would it be Sasak? Also, foraging is very much common to do, like plucking berries and mushrooms and using it for your cuisine. And there's also a lot of like restaurants and certifications that focus on reusing food and limiting food waste. Also, I forgot to mention, you maybe saw that I had a photo of me in this dress earlier. It's not just like a normal dress, it's a traditional costume. Usually we only like wear it once a year, but it's very like expensive and very like traditional, and we wear it on like the National Day, which we celebrate a lot. and they are different depending on where you come from in the country. Do you have dress like that? Or like you have like traditional costumes, I know, but like, yeah, right? Yeah. It's who has it? Is that it? Okay. Yeah. They went to Scotland and took everything they could and killed people and yeah. But they left some really cool churches from this time. Yeah, it does attract a lot of tourists to small places in Norway for the historic reasons. So a little bit more specific about how travel in Norway can be sustainable. We have this certification called Norsk Ecotourism. It's given to businesses that show a specific commitment to being sustainable. Showcases these businesses and give them like a platform so people can more easily take sustainable choices when they come. So it builds on the UN Sustainable Development Goals and also the International Ecotourism Association, which I haven't heard about before. But so there's 3 requirements to become such a business. You have to have environmental responsibility, like focus on that it's not going to be high emission, conserving resources and nature. Second is cultural heritage protection, so promoting indigenous and Sami people and historical traditions as they've been. And also community engagement, making sure that the local community is in on what's being done. Very strict criteria, actually, but that's a good thing, I think. Some examples, there's a lot of farm hotels in Norway that both cook you food, but also it's like an accommodation. Some people also do pilgrimage in Norway, so it's like a Christian or religious walk to one of the churches in Norway, and they often stay at these hotels. There's also businesses like that are more like activity related. For instance, like, you know what dog slaying is? Dog slaying? Like, how do I explain? It's like a sleigh that you have on the snow, and then there's like husky dogs. Yeah, you know? Okay. Some people do that, and these dogs, they're like made to do this. They're made to be in the snow, and they're made to have this energy, so it's not animal abuse. All right, over to transportation, because Norway is a super long country and it's like a lot of mountains. It's hard to get places. So there's been some efforts really to make this transportation at least a little bit more sustainable. So Norway is actually the leading country in the world when it comes to electric vehicles. We own the most amount of like electric cars, private cars. In 2023, more than 80% of new cars were electric. And I think this year it's going to be 100% new cars are electric. After now what's happened with like Musk in America, a lot of Norwegians are like a little bit doubtful that they should have bought this Tesla. But there's a lot of Teslas. But also public transportations like bus, trams and ferries are also getting more and more electric. Tourism is a lot focused around the non-motorized transportation, and it's also encouraged, at least more and more, to take public transportation to do long routes in the country. But it's a bit hard, even for me, that wants to travel sustainable. I come from one place where if I go to Oslo, it takes 8 hours by car, with 45 minutes by the plane, and until now the plane has actually been like cheaper than the train, which is not good. But yeah, for tourists, trains are recommended as well because it's like very beautiful landscapes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, public transportation is also hard, like between very remote cities. It doesn't make sense to have like a bus going when it's one person.
Good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Rizky Ramadhani. You can call me Iki. I have one question. Is what is in Norway policies to managing waste? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. But there is, in general, a quite good recycling system. And this is a bit dependent on the region. But we have like paper, waste, plastic, glass, food. So it's at least 5 everywhere, and in every household has different bins. And then these are picked up by big trucks that puts them in like recycling facilities. Yeah, in nature waste and stuff, it's very encouraged for people to not do that. And waste that is on the street, etc., is usually cleaned up during the night, so very early in the cities. I think they often do it as like a society service. People that, for instance, have been in prison, they do this. In Norway, there is some people that do fishing and hunting off the books, and they hunt without telling people, or they fish or hunt not in the season, and this is obviously not sustainable because it depletes the populations. And Norway is sadly one of the few countries in the world, I think, beside Iceland and one other country that still does whale hunting, which is, whales are so important for the biodiversity in the oceans. So this is not something a lot of people are proud of, but the people that do eat whale meat defend it with it being important for Norwegian traditions and history, and that's why you should keep it. So this is like a trade-off that I think you can see a lot of places. Also, cruise ships in the fjord like this, cruise ships are really bad usually for the environment in their emissions. Like some cruise ships, and most of the cruise ships says that they do this and this for sustainability efforts, but they are still cruise ships, and I don't think there are any electric cruise ships yet. And also like pollution a little bit, but with what you said, like some places and in some hiking areas, a lot of tourists go, and it's almost like you walk in a queue up the mountain. And at these places it can be a lot of waste, both in terms of like actually garbage, but also people like, unfortunately, like going to the toilet in the trails and not cleaning up after themselves. It's also a source of pollution, and no one goes and picks it up for them, so that's a problem. Do you think that there are any similarities with what you've seen now and how tourism is in Lombok or Indonesia? Mountains? Yeah. Hiking tourism? Yeah. Huh? Mass tourism, yeah. I think it's worse here, maybe. Yeah. Hiking, surfing a little bit. Huh? Yeah, Rinjani, I really want to go. I can show you what I had as similarities. I'm not really sure about the standing of sustainable accommodations. Like I feel homestays, like supporting local homestays is really good, like supporting local families, etc. There might also be some hotels, etc. that have a bigger focus on sustainability. This is actually something Fuad told me the day that I came, that some of these resorts, etc., they are on top of the mountain and they take a lot of the woods and nature away just to have this hotel and then say that it's green. Yeah, it's obviously not good. And like the focus on the culture aspect as well. Maybe this is easier. I don't know. Do you have any ideas of the differences? That people are more individualistic in Norway, and it's very digitalized, everything. But I've seen that it's quite, like it's digitalized here as well, like paying with QR codes, etc. Yeah, and comparably, if we talk about like international tourism, if international tourists wants to go to Norway, it's very expensive. Very expensive. while going to Indonesia is for many, or like to Lombok, for instance, is relatively cheaper. So this is lastly approaching the end. Just some tips for a sustainable travel that I think also can be communicated to people traveling to Indonesia and Southeast Asia.